Hello, it's good to be back with you. This video is the first in a series dedicated to an essential lawyering skill, legal research. The series focuses on Westlaw, one of the many platforms available to you for online legal research, simply because it's the platform with which I'm most familiar. I'm not suggesting that it's the best or only service available to you for legal research. It's merely the one I can most easily use to introduce you to the research process. And the techniques we'll be using are either identical or very similar to techniques you'll use in other platforms anyway. Let's get started. At the top of the Westlaw screen, you'll see a folder icon. If you click on that folder, at least on my version of Westlaw, you can see that I have about 5 folders created under Teresa's research. Let's take a look at the first folder, Apple v. Vox. The eyeglasses next to a case or other authority indicate that I've viewed that authority in the past 30 days. The notes indicate that I've written a note somewhere within the authority. If I want to add a note on this particular page rather than within the case itself, I can do so by clicking the pencil. So for example, for this case, Rogers v. Coons, I can add a note that says, there's another case involving this same artist, Blanche v. Coons. So you can add notes within this list, or you can add notes in the cases themselves. I'm going to show you another case in terms of discussing adding notes. This case, U.S. v. Pascalino, is a case I've viewed within the last 30 days because we see the eyeglasses, but it's also a case in which I've written a note. Let's click on the case and see what that note looks like. Note first that you have to set this icon up so that it says Show Annotations. Once you've done that, you'll be able to see notes that you've written in the case. So you can highlight within the case and you can add notes like this one here. If you want, you can add a note at the very top of the case by clicking right here, Add Note, and you'll see that the note at the top of the case appears.
Let's add a folder for you for your next project. We're going to click on New. We're going to call the folder Memo Number 2, and we're going to hit OK. As you can see, the folder is now listed on the left side of your screen. If it doesn't look like it's in alphabetical order, just hit Refresh. Now let's populate our new folder with a few items. I use different hypotheticals each semester, so I'm going to use one of them for purposes of illustration. That means when I assign Memo Number 2 to your class, you may need to delete the items we've added today and replace them with other material. The process, though, will be the same, and the starting point will be the same. What I mean by that is, no matter what hypo you get, you probably want to start with something we call secondary authorities before diving into the case law. Secondary authorities will give you an overview of the law so that when you do get into the cases, you'll know what to look for. You'll be able to skim and read in a more targeted way and avoid, at least to some degree, becoming overwhelmed with or distracted by details that aren't pertinent to your case. So, suppose your assignment involves a copyright claim and a fair use defense. You'll want to put, among other things, Patry on fair use into your Memo Number 2 folder. Since I've given you the name of the treatise, all you need to do is type it into the main search box. Once you start typing, West will give you suggestions. So if you see something that looks right, you can go ahead and click it. There are 4 factors in a fair use defense, so you'll want to click here. I usually require my students to assess the first fair use factor, purpose and character, so we'll click on that topic. And we'll just keep expanding the table of contents until we come to an important concept related to the first fair use factor, transformation. If we like this discussion, we simply click on this icon to add it to our folders. The pop-up allows us to put this selection in exactly the folder we want, so I select memo number 2. If we hadn't yet created the right folder, we could do it now by selecting New Folder. This is the basic process you go through to add items to your folders. If we go back now to look at all of our folders, we'll see that inside of memo number 2, we now have the selection from Patry that we just added. You can also add subfolders to a main folder. So if you had to research all 4 fair use factors, for instance, you could put 4 subfolders, 1 for each factor, into your main memo number 2 folder. To do so, you'd just click New, and then when the pop-up appeared, you'd type the relevant name into the box. For the first factor, for example, you'd type purpose and character. Make sure the folder it's going under is the correct folder, here, memo number 2, and press OK. Then you'd simply repeat the process for the 3 other factors. And you can see that these new subfolders are being inserted underneath or inside of the main folder. Working in folders is a good idea because, at least as of the date of this recording, Westlaw doesn't charge you when you're working in a folder. So your client will only be paying for your time, not for the costs of the research itself. Thank you for your attention to this video. I hope to see you soon to talk about additional strategies for effective online legal research.